Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome to the discussion for Tabannusi, the builders of Ur. And Board and Dice is just pumping them out because this one, I think Origins was last year in 2021. So Tabannusi, Teotihuacan, Terracotta Army.
Yep.
It starts with a Z. The third one that we were going to play.
Right.
But I'm drawing a blank on what exactly that one is. But anyway, that's all Board and Dice.
Yeah.
Like Zapotec.
Yes.
And this one does have one of the T guys, Daniel Tassini, on it. And what do you think?
It was different. Very different.
Yes.
It wasn't bad. I didn't enjoy it as much as other of the T games.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like I thought, it's so unique.
Yeah. This is definitely like, this is the Board and Dice game. This is clearly in the T series.
Right.
But it's so bizarre.
I think so. It didn't click with me exactly the scoring until like after the first one, and by that point I was already committed to my idea. I thought you scored everything like you did at the end, and that's why I was going exclusively white. Because even when we were like learning rules, it sounded like you should be kind of just going focus on one.
Yeah.
That's not exactly true, so you should spread out more.
No.
It's still like, again, any of the other T series with the 3-tracked temples.
Yeah. Teotihuacan being one. I mean,
right.
That one, if we're comparing kind of the 3 tracks, is clearly okay. In Teotihuacan, you have the 3 tracks. Four if you have the expansion.
Right.
That one, obviously, it benefits you greatly if you spread out, but also you're rewarded pretty greatly if you do go all in on one, because you get a shit ton of points and those extra bonus, maybe mass or whatever.
Right.
This one is not as rewarding. I felt like this one wanted you to spread out more so, because it's kind of like, okay, do you want the bonuses on the side? Because you have to kind of have them all even, or do you want to go all in on one and go all in on one building and just get that massive multiplier?
Yep.
Yeah. No, you're right. This one, I mean, it clicked with me.
It clicked.
Like I was like, okay, but it's still like, this is one of those where it's like, I understand exactly how to play this game, but why do I feel uncertain about like everything I'm doing? Why do I not feel like this is one of those that I'm kind of like, if how Brett would describe it, I actually have a difficult time seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah, and I think some of it comes down to, so the weirdest mechanic in this game is the fact that when you start your turn, you take a die, and that dictates where you now move.
Mm-hmm.
And so because the ability of not knowing what other people are going to take for dice, there's very little long-term planning.
Right.
You're planning at best 2 moves ahead. Because I don't know what the dice are going to be after 2 turns.
Yeah.
I can be pretty confident what it's going to be 1 turn from now, but not 100%.
Yeah.
But anything beyond 2 turns, it's like, I gotta go with the flow.
Yeah. You have to do this weird roundabout way. Because in other games, we just played Terracotta Army, it's like setup, payoff, setup, payoff.
Right.
This one, it was like, okay, like a perfect example is in the run-through. I put the 2 here.
Right.
My goal, I was trying to get the decree over there. And I was like, okay, I got the 2 here. Well, wait a minute. The dice aren't in my favor to where I just went to then come back. You can't do cool things in a row. You have to keep.
Right.
You have to loop back around. And by that time, you went there, and I was like, oh well, he doesn't have the resources. Yes, he does. Yeah, he has the gold over there. So okay, he's clearly going to build that. And all right, I set that up for him.
Again, because you didn't have white, it didn't help you. But it bumped you up 2 spaces.
It did.
And that to me is the weirdest part, is you reward your enemy a lot in this game.
Yeah. Like, it actually hurts you to do things by yourself.
Right.
Like, and there's virtually nothing stopping. So one thing that we did miss in the run-through And I remember it being the case, but like by that point, it was like
It didn't matter
it
enough.
didn't matter by the time I remembered, and also I was always strapped for gold, and I think it would have benefited you a little bit more. But if I did remember that, then it's like, oh, I can just pop over here and just, oh man, that's just 2 brown dice.
Right.
Like for me to just take a 3 brown from you.
Right.
Like that's disgusting. Yeah, you're gonna go up 3 brown on.
But if I don't have any other brown buildings, what's it matter?
Right. But it doesn't. It's so weird because then it incentivizes you to now build a brown building because you're
Right.
like, hey, thanks for the 2 multiplier.
But again, because you only score in the district that the dice leave, I have to guess what that district is going to be that's going to score next.
Yes.
And so that's where it threw me, and that's what it's going to take a couple plays through to kind of think there's like. So you either go one color building and you just say, I'm going to go 3, then 3, then 3, just so you can just score every single district.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little weird, a little different.
Yeah, with the architect, I haven't ever played a game where what you're doing, like, you're playing, like, because I have strategies in my head, and some games
Right.
are easier than others where I can be like, I need to do these 4 things for me
Right.
to do this one big thing. Like Terracotta Army and like I can see those. Okay, this is my long-term strategy. This one, yeah, I was basically banking on the ziggurat spot and getting that was my from the get-go when we were
Right.
talking about okay, what their strategy is going to be. I was like, this is my plan. This with that multiplier, and then maybe like I was going to ignore gardens. I was going to ignore water. And I'm like, yep, just get buildings out. That's what I'm going to try and do.
So I plan to do more of the tech because, like, a lot of the T games, I go pretty tech heavy.
Yeah.
And I saw this little bouncing between blue and brown. And I was going back and forth, and then it hit the point, it's like, but I don't have gold anymore. And so I can't do what I wanted to do. And it's like, well, then that's gone now.
Yeah.
And so it did throw me because the other plan from the get-go, when we kind of read this out and we said it's 3 of any kind, it's like, okay, so I can pop over here, quickly get some boat tech out, get this up to 7 points. But again, it was kind of the idea that every time you score these. Like
Yes.
and you don't. So because
Yeah.
you said, well, it's consistent 5 points. It's not.
No, you're right. I did think that. I was thinking, oh, at the end of every scoring, it's going
Right.
to be so. Because at first, yeah, when I said that, I knew I was wrong because I was like, oh, if you get it up, that's 50 points. If you got it up to the
Right.
times 2, I'm like, no, that can't be right.
Right.
So
And that's what was, and that threw me for a little bit. And so then you're taking all the time to try to regroup. And so I think another playthrough, I will do better. Mm-hmm. But it's still going to feel chaotic.
you think this is their heaviest game?
No,
You don't?
I don't, because I don't think you can strategize enough in it. You have to go with the flow a little bit.
Yeah.
And so there's games that I can realistically outplan people in other of their T games. And this one, I don't know that I can plan stuff out well.
Yeah. No, I think Tech Hanu is probably their heaviest.
Yeah.
This one just feels muddy,
Yes.
but not in a bad way.
Nope.
I'm having a difficult time articulating my feelings for this game just because of just the sheer weirdness of it. Because yes, you're only going to score each district in the middle of a game, maybe twice.
Maybe twice.
Yeah.
Because it's 5 times. There's 5 districts. So the way I kind of view it is you're supposed to score a district 1 time for the entire game and then 1 more time at the end. It didn't happen that way. But you could easily do that.
Yeah. I mean, but think about it. Like, I think you do have more control than you initially think because if you have the gold, or if the dice go your way, I mean, I was here for like 3 turns, so that burned.
But you're only there because there were tons of force. Because here's
That's
my,
what I'm saying. Is like if the dice are there, or you spend the gold and you're just like, I'm just going to stay here.
Gold is so valuable because, like, so if you go to a new spot on your first turn, you can't build buildings with it because you don't have a yellow. Like, you don't have a second die to do anything with, right? And so you're using gold realistically to, like, for that brown, you have to use gold.
Yeah. I mean,
Dude.
you could. Yeah, you do have to use gold because it is extremely valuable. Probably,
Right.
I mean, it's probably one of the most valuable resources in a game like this that I've seen.
Right.
It's just so crucial.
It is crucial.
But I think at the same time, like, you could pop a building down on your first turn. It's not going to be a strength 3, but just because you get to take the die, you'd have the gold, and then you would go based off the crate you have.
Right.
So,
but then you're mitigating a lot less stuff.
you are. Well, you are. You're not getting the multiplier. If you were going to go that quick building route, then you're probably going decrees, like
Right.
just to quickly get those out, or maybe the ziggurat locations. Or, I mean, this is 10 points.
You know what's dumb? I actually have that.
You don't have 5 whites.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh. There you go. 77. No, you don't have a brown.
Oh, right. You had to have
Yeah,
one
sorry.
brown.
Yep, you needed 1 brown.
One brown.
That's why I was thinking. Yeah, I was like, oh man, yeah, you almost had it, and then I was
Yeah.
like, oh, you're not in the brown spot. So
Yeah.
so I think there is this game is obviously random with the dice that are getting rolled, but I mean, I like the fact that 6s are just kind of like, well, you have some control.
Yep. It's a wild movement.
Yeah, almost. Because, like, I mean, if I took this, I could only go to 1, 4, or 5, which is still,
Right.
I mean, a lot of spaces. But you know what's also very interesting about this is, we were talking about, since we played Terracotta Army earlier today, we were talking about how that was a trash 2-player game. I actually really like this one at 2. I think... What were you going to say?
The only thing I would say is negative with the 2 is it felt like then putting gardens down to try to get your opponent to build buildings next to it.
That's probably the
wasn't valuable.
Yeah, that's the hardest part is spreading water and guards out. Well, technically, no.
It's not hard to spread water on gardens, but then to convince people to build next to them to get the bonuses.
Yeah, if there was anything that was in this game that I was like, that didn't need to be in here, I think it's the water and the gardens.
Yep.
Because it's like, it's more of like a cock block. Like,
Yeah.
like like if I took water and just build these out, then it's like, well, that increases the strength of my building here, but also, and now I took those spots from you,
Right.
and now if you build that, then I get to go up
Right.
on the track. But it also increases the size of your building.
Up to
'cause it-
3.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter who owns the garden as long as it's
Right.
just adjacent. But yeah, probably water and gardens are a lot more involved in,
Right.
in a more player game.
And I didn't realize that you said the rule, I probably, with the 1,000 of rules that were in here, didn't think that through. Because, like, honestly, I would have definitely not built this as a 3 because it's a free garden right there. So I
That's
didn't have
true.
to build an extra one.
Yeah.
And so things like that, I didn't realize early enough that that's what did. And so I would have done a little bit differently. Again, that's what I'm saying. I would play this again because now that I understand the game significantly more, I agree. There's a lot of strategy in the game, but it's not long-term, brain-burny, mathing everything out. It is mapping out short-term strategy. Like, you have goals, but it's the short-term strategy to get to goals, and your goals are probably going to fluctuate a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Also, in a multiplayer game with 3 or 4, there's obviously more dice
And more buildings to steal.
more buildings to steal, but there's still only 5 rounds. So,
Right.
So it's still 5 rounds.
Yep.
And so you're still very tight in exactly. This is kind of one of those out of what I would say. We were talking about Vita Lasarda games and how Kanban meets the theme of efficiency.
Right.
This is probably one of their more efficient games. You need to basically kind of know your path and don't divert from that path.
Right.
Whereas their other games, it's just kind of like, oh, that card was taken, or okay, you're kind of going harder in this area than I am, so I'm going to jump over there. This one is like, if you're going all in on white buildings and the white track, that's what you're doing.
Right.
Which some people might like. Some people might like the, start to finish thing with just the beeline to that.
Right.
Others might not, where it's kind of like, well, the dice aren't coming my way. I don't have any gold, so I can't modify those, so I'm kind of stuck here now. And, I was just more amazed that I was able to make that actually out of anything.
But to a certain extent, well, I understand that. So we played 5 rounds of this. Up into the very last 2 rounds, we never needed to modify dice. Like, no one was complaining about, oh, these dice suck.
Yeah, exactly. It was always kind of like, okay, yeah,
I can work with that.
Yeah. And it's just so odd. Like, the fact that you can just come in and be like, oh, hey, thanks for putting all those projects down. Oh, well, okay, I'm over here. It's my turn. I'm going to take this. Now, granted, if people have the foresight, then it's like, I could have used a gold to ignore the value and just stay there.
Right.
So then...
And things like, you built these 2 white buildings, right? Mm-hmm. And I stole them from you.
You actually added a project.
I added a project. Built it. But honestly, there's some value for me then to keep building white projects out for you to steal. Because I already have enough that I'm going to start popping up in the... Because I was trying to figure how on earth do you ever max out? It's like, oh, that's how you do it. You just build a couple of your own white buildings and then put white projects out for people to steal.
Yeah.
And then let them steal and you pump up. And then you start doing that for other ones.
Which is a really interesting back and forth.
Right.
Because if you do that, well, then that building, you still pump me up twice. So it's like, yeah, sure, now I'm incentivized to buy, white projects. Because then you already, helped me go up.
Right.
And there's so many different ways to just get free track upgrades. Like...
and again, for the other T games, this one is probably the most, how do you just boost up here? Well, there's 15 different methods of how to jump up.
One of my favorite things, actually, about this game is, again, kind of going to pair it to really Terracotta Army, is that how that one was kind of like, this is the game. This is it. We're not diverging or anything like that. It's going to play out relatively the same way.
Right.
This is not that, because these are all random.
Right.
So, in a run-through that I've seen, this one was over here. So you had an action to get a gold to then therefore spend that same gold. So the way those are going to be out is going to be different. There's a bunch of different... and
there's more of those, right? So we don't even have all these out.
I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4. No, there's only 6 of those.
Okay.
So those are all going to be the same ones, but they're going to be in different spots.
Locations.
There's a bunch of different ziggurat goals, a bunch of different decree cards. There's I don't know why I said that all weird. There's a bunch of different texts, and then I think there's a few more. I think there's 3 more of these harbor tiles.
Right.
So those were... So there's so much variety in this game that your strategies are going to be more or less efficient just depending on which actions are there.
Right. You're never going to come into this game with the clear plan, like, oh, last time I tried this strategy, so this game I'm going to try this strategy. Nope. You're going to come to the game, you're going to look at the board and say, what am I doing today?
Yeah. And this had one of my favorite ways of scoring, because it was, you and I both gave up points, and it was back and forth the entire time. And then it wasn't until the very end where it's like you were ahead until we got to the only thing I focused on.
Right.
And it's like, yay, 15 points. All right.
Which I think was the biggest swing of any points that we had.
Mm-hmm. It was like you were a consistent 6 points. It's
right.
Like, that's really good. And yeah, if you had gotten one more up, then it would have been an additional 9.
Right.
So, which would have put you at 78.
Right.
Which would have been a 6-point difference.
Right.
So yeah, I think, man, I'm very curious what...
it's a solid game.
This one is very... but it's one of those where... Oh, no, this did come out last year.
Okay.
I thought it was 2022. Anyway, they're still pumping out games.
Right.
But... It's so weird. It's so weird, but it's like, at the same time, it's like, yeah, it makes sense what you do on your turn.
Right.
These 3 districts are the same. The only thing that's going to be different are these. and the resources you spend.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that everything just makes sense. But yeah, I think it's one of those where it's very rare when I come across a strategy game where it's not like, yeah, you know what, okay, I'm going to try this.
Right.
And I think this will work.
Right.
And if it doesn't, then I need to know why it didn't work. But here it was kind of like, I mean, I don't think there was ever really a point where we were like, I don't know what to do. Like,
No.
we were both like, yeah, okay, I think this is what's going to lead us to our end goal.
Yep.
And on any given one of our turns, like 1 or 2 extra turns, I mean, I do believe this score would still be as tight.
Yes.
Like, I do not think that this would be a game where it's like, oh, if I did this one thing, yeah, I would have blown you out of the water. It's like, no, this one is... It's growing
tight.
on me.
Yeah.
It's one of those that I'm like, wow. Because kind of like Teotihuacan, which I think this is closer to, Teotihuacan has that kind of same thing of like, you know what, which avenue of strategy do I want to go down?
So again, because we can, hindsight's a little bit 20/20, so not knowing the gold, and I don't know that I would have seen it, but if I had the gold here, I could have moved up to here, gone a second grain, put the brown here, which would have completed this, because it would subtract a building from each of my requirements.
Was it each? I think it was you got to ignore one building requirement. I thought that same thing too. Let me see. Which one was that one?
5.
That's right, D5. At the end of the game, you may ignore one required house from each urban card you score. So not from each. So you would have gotten to ignore. I think you were missing one from both sections, so you would have gotten to ignore one of those.
Right.
But you could have drawn 2, and looked at one.
Right.
And this one you actually would have gotten.
Yep.
Because you would have gotten you had 2 here,
2 there,
2 here, and you would have gotten
1.
to ignore there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so again, and to me, that's the interesting part about this game is there's so many ways to kind of cheat around what I call, I'm not doing well here. Well, okay, but realistically, you are probably doing well somewhere else.
Yeah, as long as you're aware that the decree cards exist. Like, once again, I had yellow, white, and then this would have been my brown for the top one. And then I had a yellow here. Right. So
you need a white and a brown building with a garden.
Yeah, I mean, and then if I kind of ignored this a little bit, then yeah, I mean, I could have built over here to the white and then over here, and then I would have completed that one. But because I never had the brown, I think the game would have ended a little bit quicker.
Right.
Still, for me to get those out, or not. I mean, I could have just stayed here and then just kept getting the waters and
gardens,
stuff like and gardens.
Yep.
And I've seen that. I've seen run-throughs before where that was a strategy. Someone just, bulked up on a bunch of this, went over here, spent a bunch of blue resources, and then just had a pile of water and a pile of gardens. And it's like, boom, 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 and they just flood it with water.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, I'm going to stay here and pump all my gardens out.
Right.
So that's what makes me excited of these games, where it's like you get to look back and be like, ooh, next time I'm going to try this. Or, I missed that. Yeah, I want to try that next time.
No, I agree. And I would try this game again.
Yeah.
I would play it again.
Yeah. Do you have any negatives? Like, I know initially it was kind of like, I guess theoretically, you still can get location locked.
You can get location locked. I do think it's more difficult than it would seem. Like, you have to kind of make choices that are going to get you location locked. At least long term. Yeah.
Which I think it's a beginner. This is definitely not beginner friendly. And I can see that frustrating people where if they don't understand the nuances of the dice, then they're just kind of like, it's gonna be too late. Right. Like they're gonna go somewhere and realize, oh, there's only 4s there.
So to me, it's not beginner friendly. You can get locked again, hard, but still locked. If you have any form of analysis paralysis, this is not the game for you.
Yeah.
Unless you're just like one of those that can just say, you know what, I'm only going to care about my literally the next turn.
Yeah, or set like a personal goal. If I get 30, I'll be happy. You know,
Right. So something where it's light like that.
kind of how Brett plays these games, where it's
Right.
like, I'm just gonna try some shit.
Right.
And it's always perfect for us because then we get to see what works and doesn't work, so we don't have to have the sorrow of trying it ourselves.
So at 2 players, we weren't very cutthroat, but I think any more players, this game becomes cutthroat. And so if you don't like, in essence, because again, that's very anti-Euro, right? This is a Euro game that has a very anti-Euro mechanics
Yeah.
in it.
And normally, that kind of idea works against me. I hate taking actions that benefit my opponents.
Right.
This doesn't bother me.
Nope, it doesn't bother me.
It's more like, okay, yeah, you're gonna go up twice on that brown
Right.
track, whatever. Well, you don't really have any brown buildings out, or you do. However, I saved on these resources.
Right.
And I'm high up on the brown track, so that's
Right.
just going to be a free building, and that's 10 points or whatever.
Right.
You know?
So to me, those are what I call your major negatives. And again, they're very situational. But depending on your play group, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Versus a lot of their other T-Series games, there's not much player interaction. There's a little bit,
Yeah.
but it's pretty light.
It's all... Yeah, it almost always comes down to, oh, you took that card, you took
Right.
that building,
Or you
took
put a
that
worker
action.
there so it takes me extra food to
Yeah.
get to that location.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, like, or cacao and Teotihuacan, yeah.
Right. So, again, it's minor inconveniences, but it's not like, no, you took something from me. Mm-hmm. It's, you
Yeah.
played a turn, and now it's just more expensive for me to make the same action, but it's my choice to still make that action. Here, you don't have a choice if someone takes your building. It's just
That's
taken.
very true. It's like, okay, I planned because I really wanted a 3 white,
Right?
and you took that from me.
Right.
But that did bump me up 3.
Right.
So now I'm just going to build up so then I can just pop down quick white buildings.
Right.
Or if you did that, that cost a shit ton for you to do. So then it's like, okay, well now you don't have the resources. So now I can get my 3 building. And now that's 9 points for me.
Right. And so I think that's,
And you're still at the 2 or you're still at the 1.
and again, it's not a negative in my opinion, but I can see certain play groups that would be like,
Yes.
I can see someone just grabbing this board and throwing it because, like, I spent 14 turns to get this 3 buildings. Like, well, don't spend 14 turns to do
Yeah.
that one action.
Yeah. Like, yeah, it's just, it's so bizarre.
Yeah.
But then again, at the same time, depending on techs, if they take it from you, you're like, oh, actually, well, I have a tech that actually I still get to go up on that track.
Right.
Like, I can't remember which one it was. I think it might have been the... Oh, this one was you get to take it from there. This one was...
So the one that I
S14.
am kicking myself because I followed you with the buildings.
Whenever you construct a building, for each clay marker belonging to an opponent, you may pay 1 resource to move your mastery marker. Oh, yeah, that's right. So
Yeah.
if you get this specific tech and you have the resources, it's like, yeah, I'm actually going up on the track as well.
Right.
Like, for stealing,
stealing.
your thing.
So the one about halfway through, I kicked myself for not doing was I went to buildings. I should have gone jungles. Because theoretically, you can plan it to start just getting 6 jungles, and that's or 3 jungles a turn, and that's 6 buildings.
Sorry, how?
So
So 6
that brown one. So you go
Yes.
here, you get double. You know,
It's each time you place a jungle.
right. So you can place up to 3
Oh, yeah.
in action. So
How is
that's
that
6
buildings?
points.
Oh,
So
6
instead of doing the building one,
Oh, I see. I thought you said placing jungles and that's buildings. I'm
no,
like,
no.
what?
Sorry. Instead of doing the building, like halfway through, I realized the jungle one probably actually would have been more profitable.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, again, you're doing a lot of actions. It's almost like you're egging your opponent on. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, you know what? Why don't you go ahead and take that? Oh, okay. And you're like, yeah, I have gardens next to it.
Right.
Like, you're not really doing anything for yourself,
Right.
but you're capitalizing on what your opponent's giving you,
Right.
which is
Different.
it's just odd.
Right.
I don't hate it, but it's not my go-to, like, excited way to play.
Right.
Like,
Nope. That's it for me. I mean, realistically, it's just so different. It's not like any of the other ones I've played of theirs. But it's not bad.
It's definitely not bad. I had a good time with it as well. Where I'm kind of at odds now is kind of the ranking and how eager I would be to come back and play it.
I have my ranking. And
I'd be eager to come back and play it with people who have played it.
Right.
If someone's like, "Hey, I've never played a T-series or a board and dice game. Like, should I get this one?" I'd be like, "No, no." Like, there's like two I'd recommend.
And mostly, I wouldn't suggest this one for your first T-series game because it's so much different than any of the other ones, and there's other ones in the series that are similar enough to other of the T-series that if you like that one, yeah, you'll probably want to like these three others.
That's true. Maybe this is the best one to start out with because it is the black sheep that they won't have the preconceived notions of like the same kind of thought process that the other ones are. And so here, because you kind of have to like relearn a whole new thing. You're like, oh no, David Spada, what did you do? Why is this so weird?
Yeah, but you're not bringing this to anybody who's new to board games either.
No, it's true.
So they're going to have preconceived notions on a worker placement game by the time they get to this level of board gaming.
It's not worker placement.
Well, I mean, for the other T-series.
The other ones, yeah. Because Teotihuacan's dice worker placement.
Right.
Tekenu and is dice worker placement. Tuantan Suyu is worker placement.
Yep.
Terracotta Army is
worker placement.
I guess it is worker placement. You get the meeples.
Yep. You play.
But I do like it. It's whenever I first watched the How to Play, and John was like, "Okay, so you take this die, and that means what you're going to be doing next turn," and I'm like, "Oh, that's fucked up."
Right.
I'm like, "Oh, yep."
Right.
Yep. All right. So on the scale of 1 to 10, what would you give Tabannusi?
It's a 7 for me.
7.
Yep.
Yeah,
it could go
think
up
so.
or down with another playthrough. Is honestly my opinion.
Yeah. I think that's kind of actually where I'm at too. Is a 7 out of 10. It's a 7.5 on Board Game Geek. I don't know where their other ones are actually in comparison. I'll have to look those up separately. But I think a 7 out of 10 is pretty solid.
Yep.
I could see this easily being an 8.
Yep. I could also see this for me.
It's not going higher. I can't.
No. For me, it's literally plus or minus 1 on another playthrough.
Mm-hmm.
If I feel like on another playthrough, now that I kind of have a better grasp of the rules, and I don't do well still in it, like it still feels too chaotic for my taste, then it'll be a 6.
Sure.
But I think now that I have a better grasp of all the rules, I will be able to plan out farther and better.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it will go up to an 8.
Yeah, no, that's kind of where I'm at as well. But even then, like in terms of score, like you're like faux calculation, it's like you're at 69 potential, high 70s. Whenever you were like, oh, it only goes to 99, thank God. I'm like, yeah, there's no 100 markers, so we knew it was going to be that in that ballpark. So like 79 to 84. Is still very good in terms of they probably don't expect you to pass. 100 all too often. Right. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely going to stay in the collection. But this would be kind of one of those, I'm feeling a little weird. Let's play a little weird. Let's be naughty. Let's play Tabannusi. Like, how scandalous. All right, you got anything else?
Nope.
All right, well, that's our thoughts on Tabannusi, Builders of Ur. Let us know what you think of the game in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.